Welcome to A Simple Life. We are going to plant our garden. I've got a lot of stuff done in the greenhouse, but I want to show you a few things that I haven't shown you, and then we'll get to planting and I'll explain what we're going to plant and where we're going to plant it. We put a 6-foot wide shade cloth. It's a 40% shade cloth. I have it tied up right now, and as we get into summer, I can let it down and I can either tie it off this way or I can tie it off that way and create shade on one side or the other. The other thing we got hooked up is we got our J hooks up. These are the J hooks. We're going to use these for hanging our tomatoes off of. So I don't know how many tomatoes we're going to need, so I just have them at 18 inches apart or so up here. They're just hanging, so they're out of the way and I know where they're at. All right, let's talk about where we're going to be putting stuff. So we are going to be planting snow peas right here at the beginning of our trellis. This will actually be a perfect spot for them because I put in a little cattle panel trellis. Actually, it's a pig panel, but hey, who's counting? I'm actually watering right now to get this nice and wet, and we'll put them all the way along here. With everything else that we have here, and we have a bunch, we have some leeks and onions and beets and cabbages and celery and all kinds of good stuff right here. This will all be going in here along with a bunch of seeds. So I'm gonna start planting. I'll show you where I plant, what I plant, and why I planted it there. All right, it's coming along. We've got a lot in. And you know, it's funny. It's like an all-you-can-eat buffet. You go, you buy plants, and you're like, okay, yeah, I think this is about what we need. And then you realize you got like twice as many as you needed. That didn't happen in all cases. It happened in one case. We like leeks a lot. Christine makes this amazing winter soup. It's potato and leek soup, and it is just delicious. The only thing that is wrong with that soup is there's no meat in it. It's the only thing wrong with that soup. So we got a lot of leeks. So we are a little overdone on leeks, but it's okay. We'll have plenty of room for it. Excuse the dirty hands. We've been gardening. So this whole row is gonna be leeks. And it's about 3 little blocks of leeks for this whole row. So as you can see, I have more than enough. All right, this is our cabbage. That's a purple cabbage right here. And we come over here and we have our snow peas, like I was saying, followed by Brussels sprouts right here. And then we come down here. So we have cucumbers underneath this line. They're canning cucumbers. And then we have celery down here. So that we have 6 plants of regular old celery. And then down here, I planted seeds. So we'll have like 2 separate crops. And then I did the same thing on this side when it comes to beets. I want to try beet greens. We don't really like beets, but the pigs will eat beets. But in the middle of summer, you kind of, especially here, lettuce starts to kind of bolt, and you kind of your greens, your salad greens, you're missing all the goodies. And so I want to try beet greens as a salad green for the middle of the summer. So we have a bunch of beets. What I did is we have a whole entire row. I think there's about 20 plants or so right here of beets, followed by a bunch of beets seeded in for that second section. So we kind of zone 1 and zone 2 are similar type of layouts, except for this has snow peas and that has cucumbers. Okay, then we have what is becoming a dread to me is carrots. the carrots are so stinking hard to transplant. I don't like it. I really don't like it. I don't think I'll ever transplant them again. We'll see how they take. I think we're going to try some. We're also going to be trying seeding some, but yeah. So they're just very, very, very delicate. Transplanting the carrots is very delicate. Okay, Clint has been killing it with the onions. We have a whole entire section right here of a Walla Walla onion, which he did really good job. And then we're finishing it off with some extra leeks just because we have like an extra like 6 feet. So then over here we have New York storage onions, and then we're going to finish that row off with some leeks as well. That's just the stuff we're transplanting. I still have a whole entire mess of seeds. When it comes to seeds, we have 2 varieties of broccoli that still need to be planted. We have 2 varieties of lettuce. We have a romaine and a iceberg, and then we're also going to do the butter lettuce that Herman has had up here for probably his whole life of living up here, 60 some years. And then we're going to do Napa cabbage for Christine because she loves kimchi, and then more Brussels sprouts because we love Brussels sprouts. Okay, yes, I know. It's coming along. The funny part was I thought, you know what, we're going to end up with like zone 1 being like March, April. We're in April now. Zone 2 being May. It turns out I think I kind of cheated. So we're going to call this still a March planting because most of this is transplanted. And we'll call that the April planting. So April, we'll end up with a lot more lettuce and salad greens and stuff like that getting started. It's very quickly, I'm realizing how small this greenhouse is. I know I sound spoiled, but that's not, it's not coming from that. I just realized I have big dreams. I set up the new sprinkler heads. I want to show you what they look like. They actually are doing a really good job, and I like them a lot more, and I'll explain. I know it sounds petty, but it's not. I'll explain. So the ones I was using called Tea Spray, and they're these little guys. You saw them in the last video. They worked really good, and I actually really, really liked their spray. But we're on top of a hill. What I didn't think about was as soon as the wind blows, that spray was spraying over about 6 feet. So I would turn the spray on for the first bed, and what was happening was the spray would be over here. It'd be 6 feet over. So we ended up using these sprayers right here. Droplets are a little bit bigger on that. It's not quite as misty. Matter of fact, you can see it on my shirt. So see, you can see the droplets are just a little bit bigger. The wind isn't pushing it as far over it. The other thing is the spray radius on these is about 26, 27 feet, and we have no dead zone at all. It does mean the side of my greenhouse is gonna get sprayed a little, but you have to remember, I'm only gonna be using this when we're doing seeds and we're kind of starting stuff out. One of the things that I have to be cautious with when I'm planting, and I've mentioned this in the past, is I have very chunky compost. I mean, it's not chunky all the way through, but definitely the top is very chunky. Let me show you what I mean. So as you can see right here, the top is like really chunky. Now, that being said, like once it's moist, it breaks apart really easy. So if I dig down a little farther, you can see it gets a little bit more soily. There's definitely still some chunky bits in there. You can see some needles and all kinds of stuff. There's definitely a little bit of that going on. So because of that, wherever I'm gonna plant seed, I try to compact it. I know it's a little bit on the opposite of what you typically wanna do. You don't wanna compact your soil and then put seeds into it. But because it has so much springiness to it, this is learning from last year when I tried planting into our compost without doing this and it didn't work, is I'm actually going and I'm walking over it. I'm just stepping on it and compacting it once it's wet. So it needs to be wet already, and I can compact it, and then I come in and I put my seeds in. This is a trial. This is a test on us producing food on our compost, and that's a big thing for me. A big part of us growing food and me building beds and all this stuff is figuring out what grows within my compost as it is. That means not running it through a sifter, not doing anything special to it, just having it compost, letting it break down, and then bringing it here. Now, I know my compost will get much tighter, much more soily if I leave it for about 1.5 years. And I've done that, and it works great, but I need to leave it for 1.5 years. And I don't have enough compost to leave it for 1.5 years. I'll be stuck with no compost. I'll be stuck not being able to plant as we are right now. As we go into the future, I'll have to change some of that. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna soak these beds right here that I'm about to plant into. I'm gonna soak them, I'm gonna turn the sprinkler on, and we're gonna get this all really nice and wet in here. And once it's all nice and wet and moist, we're gonna come in, I'm gonna pull these up because these are easy to move. All I have to do is pick them up and move them over. And we're gonna come in, I'm gonna step on it, I'm gonna get it all compacted as it will get. And then we're gonna plant. All right, I have my beds prepared. These are my homemade staples. Make them out of big old pieces of fencing wire. We got plenty of old fencing wire around here. It works out pretty good. Okay, we are gonna be planting a couple different varieties of things. We're gonna be planting broccoli and kale in this bed. And in this bed right here, we're gonna be planting lettuces and cabbage. That's right, lettuce and cabbage. Let's talk about our seeds because I have a couple different seeds we're gonna be planting. We're gonna be planting, if you remember, I made a little video of Herman doing butter lettuce. We're planting some of Herman's butter lettuce, which he's been growing up here for a really long time. We are gonna be planting some of our kale. This is Siberian kale. This is Herman's seed, but it's the same seed I use. And Herman's also been growing that up here for a really long time. I am going to try, in my gardener's broccoli, he has two different varieties. We're gonna try both of those. So this bed is gonna be kale and broccoli, and this other bed is going to be our butter lettuce, an iceberg lettuce, a Napa cabbage, and a red romaine. We went from absolutely beautiful at the beginning of the week to kind of overcast for the rest of the week. It's what it is here in Oregon, spring. I'm super happy with how everything's going. Most of these plants have been in for 3 days now. The carrot transplants are doing excellent. Onions are doing excellent. The celery, everything. These beets aren't looking amazing, but I think they'll perk up. So overall, I'm really happy with what we got done this week, as well as the little changes. It's those little tweaks, just learning a little here, learning a little there. Finishing the wood chips. You can see I've been bringing wood chips in. We're gonna finish this off right here, get it nice and wood chipped so it's nice and cleaned up. And then I'm gonna put cattle panels across the front of this. So as my crops grow, if the goats come down here while I'm not looking, they don't end up nibbling through my garden. The other thing we're gonna do is we're gonna put plastic on the ends just to allow some heat to build up in here over the next, we'll call it next 2 or 3 weeks, just to get through this little bit of cool weather we have, especially with some of the stuff that we have started. I'd like to have the soil temperature just start to rise up just a little, especially since there's some seeds in here. Once again, it's not actually cold. It's just cold compared to the other day when it was 70 and I was ready to take my flannel off and wear a t-shirt. Like I was saying, we're gonna close off the end. As you can see, that end is closed off, as well as this end. We also close this end off. It's nothing fancy. I decided not to do doors because we really don't need doors. The only time we really shut this down is when we're doing starts and early in spring and late in fall. And at that point, this process will work really good. And the reason why this process will work really well is because the plastic's overlapped and it's a little extra long at the bottom. And I'm just gonna put a board on the end of it down there. We very rarely will ever use that side. And this side will be the exact same thing. All this plastic is recycled from the greenhouse that was destroyed up top. That's why it's a little dirty, but it'll work perfect for this. It doesn't have to look beautiful, it just has to function. All right, we are done. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll see you guys next week. Have a good one. Bye.